The compact disc. Such a ubiquitous and important piece of physical media for anyone of the millennial or even Gen X generation. Nowadays, of course, the CD is a fascinating relic of a bygone era, but not so bygone that it would sit in a museum as an odd curiosity piece. You can still actually purchase CDs. Well, kind of. Of course, there are online retailers and auction sites such as Amazon and eBay, which are easily the most convenient options. But what about the brick and mortars, the mom and pop shops, the thrift stores? What does it look like if I were to try to acquire a compact disc in 2024? Well, I live in Florida and it's hot as fuck, but I still put in the legwork and checked out all the usual suspects to see how readily available CDs are in the wild. Stick around as we try to buy some CDs from some stores. This is Dancing with Ghosts. Before I begin this excursion into the wild, I would like to note a common theme amongst most brick-and-mortar stores that sell physical media. The vinyl fad is alive and well, baby! CDs are looked upon as the annoying leper that just won't die already, but vinyl records have been unequivocally resurrected from their tomb. I made a video almost 10 years ago talking about the death of physical media, and even in that video, I called the vinyl resurgence a fad. Owning a record player and a huge stack of records is like a status symbol or a fashion statement, like having the newest pair of Air Jordans or the newest designer purse. I think the vinyl fad is just that. It's a fad. But honestly, if it's been going strong for over 10 years, is it really a fad anymore? You will see in this video just how much more priority is placed on vinyl records than CDs. Vinyl is here to stay, I think. Anyway, let us proceed. We begin our adventure by checking out a swanky thrift shop in the artsy-fartsy district of my city known as 5 Points. I figured this would give me a decent cross-section for the thrifting crowd. Those CDs are still available for purchase at some retailers. They will most likely be highly curated selections based purely off of the popularity of the artist. And even then, at this point in 2024, it will mostly be the greatest hits of an album the artist is most known for, a la Michael Jackson's Thriller record, or a brand spanking new release from a popular current artist. At thrift shops, however, you have no idea what you're going to find, and that's what makes thrifting exciting. This particular thrift shop is brimming with interesting curiosities, but their CD selection was rather anemic, I must say. I can only assume they aren't really in the market for this particular type of physical media. CDs and DVDs are, for the most part, seen as weeds in the garden when it comes to what most consignment shops are willing to take in, since, honestly, they really are pretty obsolete at this point outside of hardcore collectors. But that's also what they said about Nintendo cartridges back in the late 90s. Why, out of this thrift shop's 16 CDs, they had 2 copies of Joan Osborne's breakout album Relish was kind of beyond me. Who is Joan Osborne, you may ask? She's the one who did this controversial song in the 90s.
What if God was one of us?
There were definitely some out-of-left-field selections here, but when you only have 16 choices, it's really not all that impressive. However, their vinyl selections were alive and well. They had a more dignified spot in the store, and I'm sure they had been picked through meticulously by young hipsters wanting to show off to their friends just how sophisticated and bohemian they are. I'm sure there are a number of Goodwills that have a better CD selection, but I didn't have much luck at this particular location. Alright, well now we're at Walmart, and pretty much everyone knows that physical media here is dead except for records for some reason, but we're going to see what kind of CDs they have inside still. I'm guessing it's going to be greatest hits and most popular albums. Much like any other location that sold CDs when they were a more relevant form of physical media, Walmart used to have racks and racks of CDs back in the day. They also tended to be cheaper than an actual music store, but the only lame-ass caveat was they would only carry censored versions of any given album. However, I will say I totally bought Daft Punk's limited Alive 1997 CD here. When I walk over to the electronics department in 2024, however, I am greeted with vinyl records prominently displayed on an end cap consisting only of the records that have already gone platinum many times over. No deep cuts here, folks. Then, when we tilt down to the meager CDs on offer, we have random assortments of greatest hits CDs by some of the industry giants and random digipack reissues of old Metallica albums, including their first record, Kill 'Em All, and Ride the Lightning. What the fuck? But then I remembered Walmart has been notorious for striking deals with legacy artists such as AC/DC and Kiss, where they will go above and beyond to facilitate special distribution of these artists' music. Speaking of Kiss, they have Ace Frehley's newest album, 10,000 Volts. That's kind of interesting, I guess. Also, what's the deal with these Now CDs? When I was growing up, they released a Now CD to correspond with the year. Now 1 came out in 1998, Now 2 came out in 1999, so on and so forth. When did we get to Now 90? It's not the year 2088. Another common theme of any store that is pushing vinyl, they are also stocking cheap, unreliable record players as well. The king of these shitty record players is Crosley. Averaging between $80 to $120, these record players are notoriously shit to anyone who is serious about collecting vinyl. Chandra approves. Alright, up next we're checking out Best Buy, the place that I always used to buy physical media, especially CDs when I was a child. In fact, this is my childhood Best Buy that I would always go to and buy physical media. So let's see what the CD situation is looking like in 2024. Well, in 2024, the CD selection in Best Buy is as elusive as a Bigfoot or UFO sighting. Me and my camera lady scoured all of Best Buy in search of any kind of music media. I mean, look at these vast swaths of floor space that used to belong to racks and racks of CDs that have now been taken up by washers and dryers, grills, and flat-screen TVs. Best Buy is sadly a vestige of a bygone era. The main reason millennials would even go to a Best Buy these days is to showroom a product. This is when you go to a physical brick-and-mortar store to check out an item in person, just to turn around and buy it on Amazon. Mind you, this store is not shutting down and closing its doors. This is just how these kind of stores look now. I finally swallowed my pride and asked an employee if Best Buy even still sold CDs.
Oh, John's a
Hey, do you guys still sell CDs? No? Okay.
No, sir.
Well, I guess that answers that question. Kind of sad, but by no means surprising. These stores would be struggling to keep the lights on, if not for the vast array of refrigerators and flat-screen TVs to choose from. Alright, now we're at the mall, finally at one of the last vestiges where you can buy physical media. That would be F.Y.E. Some people have a Sam Goody at their mall. But yeah, this place is probably where we're going to find the most CDs. Immediately, vinyl records are being shoved down my throat with their shitty Crosley record players accompanying them. This is a cute gesture that suggests that maybe at some point this was a store that focused on selling physical music media, but to look at it now, it's some kind of pedestrian weeb haven with all the tchotchkes and Funko Pops that any discerning individual didn't know they needed. These items are bellwethers that grow like tumors, signaling to the more savvier purveyor of physical media that this store is on its last leg. The CD selection, though more vast than any other location thus far, is like some kind of macabre crypt. They have their catch-all rock pop banner that spans all of 5 sections before signaling the final death knell with this unapologetic ghastly void of shelf space that used to be brimming with much larger varieties outside of the top 40. Any other genre in this store fared even worse. More niche genres were relegated to one stall of picked-through carcasses that had more plastic name dividers than it did CDs. Surprisingly, under the dance genre, I was able to find an old Mirwais CD from 2000 that ended up costing me $1. Aside from that, they dedicated 1.5 display rows to CDs, and everything else was relegated to Blu-rays and DVDs. Other forms of media that are not highly sought after these days, unless you're a collector. Also, you may have noticed an orange sticker on most of these CDs. That's because they are either clearance items or previously owned media. And it was also at this point that I was told by an F.Y.E. employee that we weren't actually allowed to film in the store, despite the fact that I was using my smartphone to capture this footage with no professional filming equipment present. She was cool about it, and I thought that it was kind of a telling protocol. Let's not encourage people like myself to document the downfall of these stores that I used to love. The truth is, I'm getting old and it's a mindfuck. These buildings that I walked into today look just as they did 20 years ago when I was a teenager. But everything is different now, and making this video really forced me to sit down and face it straight on. Even the mall that I went to when I visited F.Y.E. looks exactly how it did when I was 15, with the whole rest of my life in front of me. Am I sitting here today saying that we should shut down streaming services and go back to having to buy physical media as the only way to listen to music? Absolutely not. In fact, that would be an absurd assertion to make. If you still want to buy CDs, your best bet is the internet, hands down. All of the physical media enthusiasts have coalesced onto the internet with their hobby, whether it be eBay or Amazon. Whenever I started my artists who made strange career pivots videos, it was Amazon or eBay where I went to obtain these weird little curiosity pieces because I already knew there was no store that would have had these CDs unless I got really lucky at a thrift shop. I guess the point of this video was to check in on the status of the graveyard that is physical CDs in the wild in 2024. And yes, there is some sickly nostalgic sadness that befalls me when I see these once mighty institutions reduced to a dark, dingy corner of a retail store. It almost feels like they are trying to confine me to a dark, dingy corner of the modern zeitgeist, because clearly my time has come and gone. I have become that old man that yells at clouds and whose references are getting more and more obscure. Sorry to end on such a dark note, but if you clicked on a video about CDs, I think you kind of knew how this video was going to end. Nevertheless, I hope you still enjoyed watching, and I would love to hear any stories you have in relation to physical media. But until next time, have a good rest of your night.
I need you to say in your Chicago accent, wow, he has a fat tallywhacker.